One of the first alignment movements we're going to look at is the shoulder flexion movement. Now this is your shoulder range of motion. Now being able to lift your arm above your head is very important, but it needs to happen from the shoulder itself, and no other mechanisms need to be involved in this position. So if I'm truly going to get the full range of motion and the healthy shoulder range that I need to be able to stabilize the rest of these things. So one of the biggest issues that we have is often when we're trying to reach above our head, we don't have the shoulder range of motion. So we tend to go into an arch position to try and get that extra range and get our hands all the way back. That again leads to compensation and often a lot of lower back pain. Plus, we're not actually getting the range of motion that we need. Another thing you can see is that as your arm goes above your head, your elbow starts shooting out to the side to try and sort of compensate for the ability to go overhead. So these tissues are very locked against the rib cage, and we want to break them down. And the way we're going to break them up is we're going to keep the ribs down and then let the shoulder come all the way over. But I also want to teach it that you don't have to round or slouch over to get that same range of motion, because they'll be just working in opposite. So we're going to try and stabilize this back from going over by pulling the ribs down, and then we're going to draw those arms all overhead and see how far we can go with this. All right. So in this movement, you're going to have a couple of tools to go with. If you don't have these tools, you can use what we can, or you're just going to use your own body. So something like a yoga block. This one is a separated yoga block, but it looks kind of exactly like a yoga block if you put it together. Or you can use half a roller or even a roller. It might be a little bit wide though, but it will keep the elbows in, and then a weight. Now you can go, this is a very lightweight, it's just a 3 kg. You can go a lot heavier as we get into this, but you need to first understand the basics and how to do this movement before we start adding weight to it. Now the idea is 2 things. Obviously we want the ribs to be down. We want the shoulder to go down as well. We want the shoulder blade to be down. We don't want the shoulder to come up as we reach overhead. We're not going to be starting in a standing position. We're going to go down to ground. Now, if you don't have any tools, we're just going to be using our arms. The idea is you're going to be down on your back. You want to keep a slight gap between your lower back. You'll feel that this is nice and flat, just in line with the pelvis. So the pelvis is supposed to be arching. You'll see my ribs stick out there. Going to pull them down to where they aren't protruding out, but we're still trying to keep a gap with that lower back. You're not having it flat to the ground. Then from there, you keep the elbows in, shoulders down, and now you're trying to reach overhead as far as you can until one of those things happen. You're either going to have the elbows pull out, the shoulders come up, or the ribs going to pop out over here. So you need to keep that down, focus on those 3 things. You're going to go over as far as you possibly can. And you'll feel the resistance, you'll feel the stretch, everything working against each other. You're trying to reach the ground at the back. Now a better way to do it, to try and really focus on that elbow position, is you bring this thing in line with the elbows. Now it shouldn't be maybe bigger than your chest, wider than your chest, but you're putting it just between the elbows in that position, and then you're going to use the same technique, but it keeps those shoulders together as you draw over, and you're trying to go as far as you can. You'll feel that this just helps keep the elbows in without you having you think about it. Once we get into a bit of a weighted position, we're then going to start using the weight, but the elbows still remain down, and then the weight can guide our arms down. Now at a bent position, you might find that me touching the ground is a bit too much, so I might have to go straighter, but there's a lot more leverage. So you have to just watch out what you can manage. If this pulls you to your range, you have to watch where your elbows are in accordance to your shoulders, rather than where your hands are. Going as far as you can. If I really touch here, I then want to go a bit straighter and then come back up and draw over. And this thing can get heavier and heavier and straighter until I can get all the way over here, pulling the ribs down, and you'll feel those tissues work against each other. We're strengthening the abs against our ribs popping up. We're strengthening the shoulders and stretching them at the same time. So there's a lot happening here, but it's keeping our body from tilting away. Once we get a lot stronger, then we're looking at taking a weight in a standing or kneeling position, tucking in, which is a lot more active, and you don't have the floor to show if your ribs are popping out or you're arching your back. And then we're trying to push overhead as far as we can, and then back down. You eventually want to get all the way overhead and back, without anything moving from your ribs, from your shoulders, or from your elbows pulling in and out.